There we go. Alicia, thank you so much for the invite, and thank you for having us, and thank you for that introduction. We'll start off with some very brief introductions at our end. So I shall start before handing over to Katie. So my name's Will Connolly. I am one of the sales managers here at Applica. Been working here for about a year now, but in a former life for the last 13 years prior to that, I was working in a state secondary school, a state boarding school actually, so, which is kind of a similar admissions cycle and a similar way of managing their admissions as lots of independent schools, minus the bursary part, which obviously we're going to talk about today. So my last 2 years was as an assistant head, worked really closely with our admissions team, and hence how I became aware of Applica and its services, and hence how I suppose I'm sat this side of the camera now, as opposed to the other side of the camera being presented to. Anyway, that's enough about me. I'm going to pass over to Katie just to do a brief introduction there.
Thanks, Will. Yes, afternoon, everybody. You might have seen my face a couple of times. Obviously, as Alicia mentioned, we do sponsor the series. So I've had a quick chat on the end of a couple of the webinars. But yeah, delighted to obviously be here today to showcase our systems. So I'm Katie. I lead on independent and international school sales here at Applica. I've been here just under 4 years now. And just before I kind of hand back to Will to go through today's agenda, I just wanted to kind of touch on something. And the main reason I chosen, I guess, Bursary Plus to be the topic for today. So we do obviously provide an admissions and a bursary package. But like Alicia mentioned, bursaries at the moment is the main reason that schools are coming to us and asking for guidance and assistance in managing their bursaries. We've had examples of schools that are telling us they've not got the capacity to be able to assess those that might have started early on in the school on a bursary. They might now be, in the sixth form and haven't even looked at their records, in 5 years. We've also got schools that have been coming to us and saying they're actually not going to be offering bursaries to new families coming in, but they think they're going to have to start offering more to their current families. So that's the reason I kind of wanted to really touch on Bursary Plus today. Obviously, we know about Labour's plans to introduce the 20% VAT fees. I read an article in The Guardian recently, and they're saying, fees have already been increased by 8% across the sector. There's been a 2.7% decrease in applications, and existing families, they're hoping to keep their children where they're at, but if they've got any other kids coming up through the years, they might have to obviously put those into state education. So there's been some interesting articles that I've been reading about popular opinion. Should we be offering more bursaries instead of imposing VAT? If then that could affect, 100,000 low-income families that could benefit from education. And I was actually lucky enough to go to Gresham's school, but on an assisted place bursary. And I was actually the final year. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I was the final year that were offering assisted places before the Labour government took in all those many years ago. So yeah, it's a subject very close to my heart, and hopefully today we'll be able to give you a nice overview of not only our bursary system but also the admissions package as well. Right, enough from me. I'll hand back to Will to go through the agenda.
Wow, great starting point. Great to see that passion, and obviously, yeah, really good to hear that, Katie. So thank you. So I'm just going to briefly just skim through what we've got planned for the session. I think we've got around about 40 minutes or so scheduled. So this is what we're going to look to cover. So we've done our intros. I'm going to talk a little bit about the background of the company and very briefly. And then from there, I'm going to pass back to Katie, who is going to provide you with a demo of the bursary platform. We're going to see a brief video from a current customer who just shares some of their views about our products, and then a brief overview about Admissions Plus, some time for some Q&A, and then a discussion about what the next steps would be if you wanted to collect some more information or wanted to understand a little bit more about how we can support you. So nonetheless, I am going to start with just a brief overview. So the background of the company is that it started in 2016. So two co-founders, Guthrie Denniston, who's still our CEO, was a geography teacher at Greenford High School, and he worked really closely with the head of sixth form there, and they identified a problem that they were losing a significant number of their internal sixth form students in the state sector, and they've suspected it was because the school over there had a much slicker way of collecting all of their various different applicants' data, and they had a digitized process. So they went about the way of trying to organize and design a completely digital application process for their sixth form students, and hence Admissions Plus was born, which is our admissions platform. And from there, I suppose that's where we have rolled out, working with various different other types of schools, such as independent schools. And one of the kind of the key points that I like to raise at this point is that it's kind of really evident as to kind of how the company is, I suppose, grown to its size, that we work really closely with our customers, that we like to get feedback from them, and actually some independent schools reached out to us and said, this is a fantastic platform, but do you think we might be able to get it to flex to independent admissions? And obviously, we were able to do that. From there, we identified that maybe schools needed a platform to be able to manage both their post-16 bursary in the state sector, but then also bursary applications for the independent sector. Hence, how our bursary platform, which we're obviously going to be discussing today, was then born as well. And then on top of that, we have an options platform, which actually we've started to see a little bit of traction from some independent schools, where you're able to manage and digitize the process of students selecting their option choices, whether that be in year 9 or also enrolling onto various different clubs and activities that they might want to undertake at your school. So yeah, the last point I just wanted to raise is that just give a little bit of background about the company and the employees. And I suppose one of I feel, and what we hear from lots of our customers, one of the real strengths is that we have lots of members of our UK team who have experience within the education sector, whether that be working as data managers, whether that be operations roles, whether that be teachers, whether that be former head teachers and members of SLT, and I think that has really benefited the company, because we come from a place of understanding, we come from a place of kind of empathy, and that's really kind of allowed us to be able to kind of get to grips, and make sure that we're providing products that schools are going to be able to benefit from, and obviously see the value in. Anyway, that's enough from me. I'm going to hand back over to Katie, who's going to talk a little bit more specifically about our work with independent schools.
Perfect, thanks, Will. Yeah, just to follow on from that, with what Will was saying, we have been really lucky in that the Girls' Day School Trust approached us all those years ago and said they were looking for a platform to manage their admissions and their bursaries, and they'd heard of us in the state sector, and they did work really closely with us to obviously create the initial platform, which has been developed over time. And we are now very lucky that one of their head office team is actually our product manager, leading on the independent school system. So we are very lucky. So just to kind of touch on this screen before I jump in and give you a demo of the system. So as you can see on here, we've currently got about 90 independent schools using one or more of our platforms. That's either Admissions Plus or Bursary Plus. In total, I think we've hit the 1,700 mark for schools across all sectors. But as you can see, so far since Bursary Plus launched, over 10,000 applications have gone through our platform, and over 4,000 bursaries have been awarded. So just to touch on Bursary Plus, so Bursary Plus can be used for new and renewal applications. So this is something that I think is really important with everything going on. If you have got children in your school that are on bursaries and you don't have the capacity to be checking them each year, that's something that obviously Bursary Plus will be able to help. As you can see on there, parents just apply online, they just complete their forms, upload any supporting documents that you need from them. There's then a little algorithm which works in the background, so you put in all your parameters of what you will consider with regards to resource for awarding a bursary, and then you can make recommendations obviously based on that. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we are mainly focusing on obviously the bursary platform today for the demo. Bursary Plus works independently, and it also integrates with our admission system. So if you are using both, a parent can log in to apply through Admissions Plus, and then they use the same credentials, and all their basic information is going to be there within the system as well. We'll touch on Admissions Plus a little bit later, but for now, Will, can I take over the screen for a minute and I will
Please do.
share? Thank you so much. Right, let me pull up my demo system for us. Right, can we all see my demo? Has that come through for us? Yep. Perfect. Okie dokie. Oh, I can hear myself. That's very unnerving. Right, there we go. I'm okay again. So this is your landing page. So this is the first part of Bursary Plus that your parents will see. Now, depending on whether you're just using Bursary Plus or you're using bursary and admissions, will depend on how the parent will access this. So you can just have this as a hyperlink on your website. Parent can just click on there to obviously then start the application and then log in and complete the form. If obviously, as I mentioned, you're using Admissions Plus as well, they can simply click through and then use the same credentials to log in. You can also capture this information on your standard application form and then obviously just send a link out. So plenty of ways to obviously get through to this page. As you can see, it can all be fully customized. So you're going to have your school name on there, your logo, nice picture of your school, etc. So it's all going to look very much like a continuation of your website, even down to the URL. It will have your school name in there. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to log into the system. I'm logging in as an admin user, but what we'll do is I will take you through the journey of a parent, and then from there I will then just jump in and show you some of the back end information. So let's use our lovely Clarissa here. Perfect. So hopefully you'll now be able to see on my screen a landing page for the parent homepage. So within here, you've obviously got your welcome message on the right hand side. You can obviously pop any information in there. You can also add a picture as well. So head teachers sometimes like to have their pictures in here and a welcome message from them. You can also advertise events. This is predominantly used within our admission system, but if there is anything specific to your bursary application, you're doing an open day, anything like that, then you can advertise that on there as well. And then on the left-hand side here is the journey that the parent is going to go through. You'll also see at the bottom, it will show the bursary status, and that will get updated all the way through the process. So it will obviously be incomplete to start with. It will then show as submitted, calculated, awarded, not awarded, etc. Now we're going to jump in and have a look at a bursary form. You'll also notice there's a documents phase, which is a separate form. Now, a lot of our schools want to have the ability to capture all documents within the form so that when that form comes through to them, it gets locked for the parent, but they know at that stage they've got everything that they need, including all the supporting evidence, etc. We also then have a few schools who prefer to let the parents apply and then keep the documents phase open for them to come and go kind of as and when they feel. So when you're going through setup with one of our customer success managers, if obviously you choose to come on board with us, you'll have that conversation with them as to whether you prefer to have all your documents included within the form or if indeed you want to leave that open. So we'll just jump in and have a little look at a bursary form. If there is any questions, there's a Q&A box, I believe, on here, or the chat function.
I was looking for the Q&A. I couldn't see it, but there is a chat function,
okay.
and I am keeping an eye on it. So if people do have questions, please just feel free to ping them in.
Perfect. Thanks, Will. So just going to run through what a basic application looks like. Sorry, I'm going to have to move all our faces out the way here. So we have templates that we've created based on obviously the back-end algorithm, but you can absolutely customize this platform. So Obviously, the first page is just a welcome to them. You're going to give the parent a bit of advice, a bit of information about what you're going to need from them and what's going to be expected. If you're using, obviously, the Admissions Plus platform, a lot of their basic information will be here, so it will be grayed out because they don't need to make any changes there. We then move on to gathering information about the pupil coming through. So again, if you're using Admissions Plus, this information will be there. Otherwise, for a new application, the parent will just start adding in the relevant details. Now, you'll notice there's some little asterisks on some of the fields. That means they're mandatory. So you can make any field mandatory, any document upload mandatory. So anything that you do require them to fill out, just pop a little star next to it, and they will get a notification if they haven't completed everything. There's also some nice little handy things such as the postcode lookup, because apparently people can't put in addresses properly. So you've got that option there as well for them. And then we're just going to obviously gather, as I said, a little bit more information. If you need anything else, you can add that. Now, from step 3, this is where we start customizing the platform. So the first question is, are you a single parent family? And the idea behind that is you can obviously select these drop downs, but if they're not, then going forwards, the form is going to ask for information on parent 1 and 2 or mum and dad, however you want to word it. If they are a single parent family and they say, it's just mum or it's just dad, they can select that, and then from now on, we'll only then see questions for that parent. So I've got this one down as mother only, so we'll leave it as that for now. But as you can see, we're then going to gather information about the mother or the partner. They're going to put in all of their information, obviously details about employment, any employment details down here, residency, declarations, and then obviously if there is a partner as well, they can provide their information down here. We then start jumping through into the algorithm portion of the form. So this is where we start collecting the financial data from the families. Now, you can set this up in a couple of ways. So you can see here, for instance, income, we've got everything listed, and then there's an option for the parent to just add in anything that is relevant. You've also then, if we scroll down and see the benefits, with this one, they actually just click and select anything relevant to them from a drop down and then start adding them up. So you can choose if you want to have some parts as everything there listed, some as an option for them to just add anything that's relevant. You'll also notice on here as well that we've got the benefit frequency and the amount. The idea is we don't want them having to do maths if they don't need to. So all they will need to do is if they get working tax credit weekly and it's £10, it will then give them an annual total. So at the end, when they get their summary, it's going to be an annual total, and that is the same that will come through to you as well. Step 5, again, very similar. We're just going to start capturing any outgoings. Again, we've got this one just selected at the moment as they just click, select from a list, and then pop in the amounts. Very similar again for things like other assets. This is where they're going to add in information about obviously residential property. If the property is obviously rented, we'll then have further information that we'll need to ask from them. If it's owned, then there'll then be obviously details about mortgage payments, etc. You can also include things like other properties, bank accounts, stocks, shares, other assets, anything like that on here. And then final step of the algorithm is the dependent children. So you can also program the platform to take into consideration any other children that are either at the school or not at the school. And then the continuation step here, this is just an area where a parent can add any additional information. So we know that not everything is black and white. The system does base its calculations on figures that have been provided. But for instance, dad could be self-employed. He's had an accident at work. He's going to be, earning no income for the next 6 months. So that's something that they want you to be aware of. So the idea behind gathering all this information, yes, you're going to use the algorithm to give you an idea, but you are also going to check these additional notes. You are going to check the documents to get that overall picture. This step is obviously the documents. So depending on how you want to set this up, you can either have the documents within here, or as I showed you earlier, you can have that as a separate phase. You can have it all separated out. So it can be, obviously we've just got mother only parent here, but it's anything to do with income that's needed, anything to do with assets, and then any other evidence. And again, anything that's mandatory, just pop a little asterisk on it, and they will have to add that before continuing. And then the final step before we then ask them to confirm and submit is this summary table. Now, the summary table, the idea of this is they're going to look through and they're giving you the nod, basically, that they agree with everything they've put in, all the documents they've uploaded are correct, and they're ready to submit. And once they get to this submission portion and they click, yep, save and progress, they won't be able to come back into it. So the system gets locked unless you decide that you want to unlock it for them if they've come to you to make any changes, or indeed you can make changes on their behalf. I'll pause for a quick second. Well, have we got anything coming in yet, or shall I crack on?
No, nothing coming in yet. I can only assume that your explanations and your demonstration has answered any potential questions.
Oh, you are too kind. You're too kind, Will. Right, we will continue. But yeah, as I said, if there is any questions, do pop them through. What I just want to do now is just jump back to the child's view, but from an admin point, and that's just to show you this section down here. So if I just come onto the concessions and bursary, when my system loads, there we go, you'll notice that all these sections down here are everything that we've just gone through. So if someone does want to make any changes, you can easily just log into here and update them. But the bit I really want to show you is the bursary summary. So this is going to look slightly different for you than it did to the parent. And that's because when it loads, on the left-hand side, it's going to be the application form information. And on the right-hand side, it's going to be your information. So the idea behind this, at the top, you can see, based on your parameters, this person would be awarded a full 100% bursary. Now, if I just scroll down a little bit, you will see if there's any discrepancies between what they've put in and what you've put in. If you look through everything, so you can quickly access, obviously, their documents just here. If you look through and decide, you know, I'm really happy with everything, I agree with everything they've put on, then the system will just calculate everything based on what they've entered. If you then do decide to make, you know, any changes, so we can see actually they've made quite a few changes on the right hand side here, which has then changed the outcome, obviously, of whether or not this family would get awarded a bursary. So it's really straightforward for you to keep an eye on. At the top here is where you see obviously all the different statuses. So as you go through and obviously review, award, etc., you can just update that status and the parent can then get a notification from you as well. One little final bit, I'm conscious, I think we're doing okay for time at the moment. I just want to show you the main dashboard. So this is how you're going to track everything. At the top, you've got obviously tiles. So at different times in the year, you might want to create different tiles, and these are live. So if you want to know, you know, how many have, you know, not started the application yet, how many have submitted, how many you're awaiting information for, etc. These are live. So as people then obviously start putting information through, updating additional information that you need, etc., they will get updated. And at any point, you can click into these and send communication via email through the platform. You can also see, obviously, the different applications that are coming through. You can even see what they have done as part of the application. You can see what staff members are doing on the platform, what the parents are doing, and then all importantly, you're going to see your registered students down here. So everyone will start and obviously not started, and then they will gradually move through either automatically at the beginning stages when the parent submits, or by yourselves when you want to then move them through as you go on. Just to kind of touch on things like comms. So communication wise, everything is done via email in our system. We have looked at text messaging, but for this process, the feedback we had from schools was actually they would prefer it to be a bit more formal, and they actually just wanted to stick with all communications until they started, you know, at the school, or if they've got a text messaging system already in place, if they needed to use that functionality, they would. But for particular for bursaries, they did want that to be formal. So you can send just a manual message to a group of people or an individual. You can have automated messages going out. That's if someone's done an action. So when they've submitted a form to you, or booked for a meeting. If you do any home visits, anything like that, they might have accepted a meeting. And then you can also have scheduled messaging, which is really handy in the lead up to your deadlines. You can just program the platform to send out reminders to everybody in the lead up to your deadline, just chasing them along. I'm going to pause for a second. Will, is there anything you think I've not missed? I'm conscious I've just spoken for a long period of time, so I'm going to pause for a second.
No, absolutely. I think you've covered everything that that needed to be covered. Really, there wasn't anything that I can think to add. No, that was super and really thorough.
Perfect. Right. What I will do then, if there's no questions at this stage, I will stop sharing and let you take control again.
Super. So, as I mentioned at the start, what we wanted to do is just to share a. Oh, I'm showing the wrong one. Share just a brief testimonial video from a current customer. Katie, you're going to have to give me the thumbs up just to make sure that the sound is playing, if that's okay. But I will press play.
Yeah, we're good.
About less than 1 year ago, my boss, the bursar, came to me and said, Sue, what if I told you about one product that could do at least 6 of your fundamental jobs every day? And I said, yeah, okay, fine. And he said, something that saves you time, something that saves money, something that saves space, and something that will save effort. And I thought, yeah, okay, yeah, I don't really see where we're going with this one. And he said, yeah, there is such a product and I'd like you to think about it. He put it to me and I thought, no, this is impossible. How can we do all that in one day? And so, in fact, actually, he came up with Bursary Plus. And my goodness me, it does everything it says on the tin. We did everything by paper before. We had our own form, which we took advice on, so that it was a legal form. And so the majority of the forms, due to the size, were sent out by mail. So this was quite a big job for us. And then we would then have to wait for the forms to come back. We would send a prepaid envelope to make it easier for the parents. They would then send the forms back. And so then there was a lot of admin involved. A lot of space was required to store all the forms, as you can imagine. And that was a big concern, the security. Making sure that everything was under lock and key and that no one had access to these forms, and making sure that nothing was lying on the table, because we had all this, obviously confidential information. So that was a big concern. If you can imagine the amount of paper that all the forms that I'm printing, I had to photocopy it to myself practically, because I was photocopying, I think our forms were probably about 6 double-sided, but then the information with it, we need this, we need that, and then the forms wouldn't come back signed, so they had to go backwards and forwards. You were always chasing parents to send in information or to get it signed, because legally our auditors spot check our bursary packs, and so if it wasn't signed, we would be in trouble for that. When we had the old system, and I'm talking about the paper system, when you consider the bursar here, he's the bursar of 3 schools. I mean, it's huge. We have 3 heads, we have one bursar, a principal. So we're slightly different being a diamond school in that the bursar's job is phenomenal. So for him then to have to assess 200 bursaries, sometimes if it looked a little bit difficult, we would employ bursary administration, as a company, to do a visit online or home visit, because he just did not have the time. And so it was easier for us to employ them to do. Now, we don't do that anymore now. In fact, since we've had Bursary Plus, we've only used them twice. And that was simply because even with the Bursary Plus, the 2 forms we've had recently, you just couldn't work it out. They liked the fact that it was quicker And one thing that they do like about it is the fact that they don't have to do it all in one day. So with the old form, they would sit there and have to go back through it. With this one, it's great because each page they could spend an hour on it, or half an hour, 2 hours, a day, whatever, doing, well, not a day, but you know, going through the form, and then they could go back to it at any point. Some of them pressed the send button and then would ring me and say, I've sent the send button, I pressed the send button, because of course when they've done that, then it's mine, it comes through to me. So some of them panic, I didn't put this on. I said, don't, it's not a problem. So they would actually sometimes send me additional documents and I would put it on myself. So yeah, they do, they much prefer it, much easier. If I can tell you that Dean and I did this calculation, for him to have processed a bursary with the old form, you would have to allow a good 40 minutes. He can now assess 1 in 5. Okay, he's a finance man, he's a qualified accountant, he can see figures, he can literally assess now in 5 minutes. This is absolutely true. And in fact, because it's all been done for him, the only time it would take any time over than that is if we then had to consider maybe an historical situation for that family, or that we knew of something where we had to give more or less, or that they got a sibling. The support has been fantastic, I have to say. If I've had any questions at all, I've been able to go back to them, and there were a couple of things that I wanted adding to it to make it suitable for me, and he was able to sort that out. I think everything's possible with Bursary Plus. They seem to be able to find a way so that you can tailor make it to what you wanted.
Okay,
Lovely,
so
Sue. It always makes me smile when I listen to that video, because I remember Dean told her about the platform. They booked in for a meeting with me, and the next day they had the system. And it always makes me smile when I listen to that video.
Katie, just to butt in there, I have worked with that Bursa when I was a marketing director, and I am fully aware how careful he is with his spending. So that really is a huge endorsement that he thinks it's such good value.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, that's lovely to. But no, he did. He found us, and he approached her exactly like she said, and said, I found something that's going to make your life easier. And yeah, luckily it did. So that's amazing. Perfect.
fantastic. That's a really nice one. So, Katie, back over to you, if I may.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just wanted to kind of finish off today, just giving you a bit of an overview of the other system, which obviously can support your score, which is Admissions Plus. It's also reminded me I need to update my slides, because that needs to say 1700 UK and international schools. So yeah, we as we mentioned earlier, we've got 1700 schools at the moment. Some of the independent schools that we work with, we've got listed on the page. But the idea behind Admissions Plus is it's an end-to-end admissions platform that is used as a bolt-on to your MIS. So from the point of inquiry to booking tours, events, open days, someone completing a registration form, paying a registration fee, bringing them in for their entrance test, any meetings, sending out their offer letters, getting medical information, everything like that. The idea is that entire process can be managed within our platform. Now, the two MIS that we work with currently are well, I say two. We've got customers on SIMS and ISAMs, but more recently, Arbor and Bromcom, actually, we've had a couple of independent schools move over to them. That means, when I say integrated, that means the data just pushes through via an API. If you're not using one of those systems, you can absolutely use everything on the platform up until the point of integration, and then all you need to do is obviously export that data, manipulate, and then push it through. But yeah, just wanted to kind of give a a little overview about obviously this platform as well. I know this obviously has been recorded, and I think, Alicia, this is going to be sent out, isn't it, afterwards?
Yes,
this
it
recording
will be, and it'll also be on the website.
Perfect. But if anybody in particular does want a demo for the Admissions Plus package as well, just let Alicia know, and we can obviously get that sent out for you as well. I think that's it from me. So it was just, yeah, to ask if there were any questions at all from anybody.
There haven't been any questions that have come into the chat function, but maybe we just give 5 seconds or so, or 10 seconds or so, if there are any last late questions to come in.
Thank you, Katie and Will. That was great. I do know that this group is very reticent on the question front, so do not take it as take it personally that no questions have come through, because this is our 5th of the year, and I think we've only had 1 question throughout the time. So thank you everybody for joining us today. Our next webinar is next Wednesday. That will be our final one of the academic year, and that is on marketing strategies. So I do hope that you will be joining us at that, and please do follow us on LinkedIn, because that's where we put all the webinars that we've got. It's the easiest way for you to keep up to date on everything that we've got going on. We've also got on our website, you'll see it from LinkedIn, a really good bank of everything that has been in the press recently about VAT on school fees. There's over 40 pieces there, from parliamentary debates to white papers. So definitely worth a look if that is something that you're finding lots of discussion about in your school, which, let's be honest, I'm sure it is in every school. So thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you to Katie and Will. And we hope to see you soon at one of our webinars. And as Katie says, if you want any more information of Applica, please do email Katie or give me a shout and I can pass your details on. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks all.
See you later.